Alright, I never thought I'd be one of those guys posting on the internet about this kind of mess, but here we are. I just need to get it out. Maybe someone out there has been through something similar and can tell me I'm not crazy. My name's Dan. I'm 42. I built a damn good life. Married to Kimberly for 17 years, 2 daughters, 15 and 12, a great career, a nice home in a quiet neighborhood, the whole American dream thing. I thought I had it all figured out. Turns out I was an idiot. It started with the little things. Kimberly used to text a lot, but lately she'd been hiding her phone, turning the screen away when I walked by, smiling at messages but locking her phone as soon as I got close. Suddenly she had a new gym routine, spending extra hours at yoga or grabbing drinks with the girls more often. I don't know why I did it. Maybe gut instinct. Maybe years of working in risk management trained me to notice patterns. But one night when she said she was out with her friends, I decided to check. I opened Find My iPhone. She wasn't at the bar she told me she was at. She was at a cheap motel. I sat there staring at my phone, heartbeat in my ears. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she lost signal and the GPS glitched. Maybe. No. I knew. I got in my car and drove there, slow like my body already knew what my mind refused to accept. I parked across the street and watched. It wasn't long before I saw her come out, laughing, fixing her hair. And then he followed. A young guy. Athletic build. Smug. He grabbed her waist and she leaned into him like I didn't exist. My stomach turned to stone. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I should have confronted her right then and there, but something stopped me. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the need for proof. So I didn't get out of the car. I just watched. And that's how it all started. I drove home in a daze. My hands felt numb on the steering wheel. My thoughts raced so fast I couldn't grab onto a single one. The only thing that stuck with me was that image. Kimberly laughing, fixing her hair, leaning into him. I sat in the driveway for a long time before I went inside. The house was dark, quiet. Our daughters were asleep. I stared at the framed family photo in the hallway as I passed it, feeling like a stranger in my own home. I could hear Kimberly in the bathroom, probably showering off him. The thought made my stomach churn. I wanted to storm in, demand answers, scream at her. But I didn't. Instead, I played it smart. I pulled out my phone and started digging. See, Kimberly thought she was clever. She used a messaging app that deletes texts after a certain time. But I knew how to recover them. I worked in risk management. I dealt with digital security and forensic accounting. If she thought she could cover her tracks, she didn't know who she was married to. Within 20 minutes, I had everything. Texts, pictures, voice messages. And then I saw his name. Ryan. That's when the air left my lungs. My best friend Matt's son. The kid I watched grow up. The one who came over for BBQs, played basketball in my driveway, called me Uncle Dan. That was the guy she was sleeping with. I set my phone down and stared at the wall, my whole body shaking. This wasn't just an affair. This was humiliation. This was betrayal on another level. And worst of all, I had to act normal. Because this was just the beginning. I barely slept that night. I lay in bed next to Kimberly, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a stranger in my own life. She turned over a few times, mumbling something in her sleep, completely oblivious to the fact that I knew everything. Morning came and I played my part. I got up, made coffee, kissed my daughters on the forehead as they rushed off to school. Kimberly waltzed into the kitchen, stretching, acting like nothing was wrong. "Morning, babe," she said, pouring herself coffee. "You slept in. Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." It disgusted me how easy it was for her to pretend. But I wasn't about to explode, not yet. I needed more. See, confronting her now wouldn't do anything. She'd deny it, cry, twist the story, maybe even blame me. No, I needed undeniable proof. So I played dumb. Over the next few days, I became a different man, one who paid attention to every detail. I checked our phone records. I put a small GPS tracker in her car. And the kicker? I bought a hidden camera and placed it in the living room, where she always sat on the couch texting. It didn't take long. 2 days later, I had video footage of her giggling at her phone, texting him, biting her lip like a lovesick teenager. I checked the tracker. She had been back to the motel that afternoon. Then, another gut punch, she called him. And I had the audio recorded. Her voice, sickeningly sweet. "I can't stop thinking about you. Last night was amazing. I wish I could be with you all the time." His response? Smug as hell. "Soon, babe. He won't suspect a thing." I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth would crack. He won't suspect a thing? I stared at the screen, heart pounding. They thought I was a fool. They thought I was blind. I wasn't. And now, Now it was time to make my move. I spent the next week pretending to be the same husband I'd always been. Loving. Busy with work. A little distracted maybe, but not suspicious. I still kissed Kimberly goodbye in the mornings, still asked about her day, still laughed at our daughter's jokes at dinner. But inside I was a storm waiting to hit. The more I gathered, the worse it got. It wasn't just a fling. It wasn't just lust. She was planning something. One night, while she was in the shower, I went through her phone again. She had a separate messaging app she used with him, and this time I saw the real conversations. Kimberly, I feel guilty sometimes, but I just know I was meant to be happy like this. Ryan, you are meant to be happy, babe. He's just holding you back. Kimberly, I don't know, it's hard. The girls. Ryan, they'll adjust. You deserve this. She was thinking about leaving me. For him. For this kid. I had to take a breath, remind myself to stay calm. There was no point in losing it now. So I decided to push things along. See just how deep the rabbit hole went. The next morning, over breakfast, I played my first card. You know, I said, sipping my coffee, I was thinking about a work trip next weekend. Just a couple of days. A retreat thing. Might be good to get away for a bit. Kimberly looked up from her phone, feigning mild interest. Oh? Where to? Upstate. Some cabin thing. Team bonding? I shrugged. Not sure yet. But I'd leave Friday, come back Sunday. She hesitated for only a second before turning back to her coffee. That sounds nice. You could use a break. Bingo. She wasn't concerned. She wasn't annoyed. She wasn't even pretending to be disappointed. She was interested. Because she saw an opening. That night, I checked her messages again. Sure enough, she had already told Ryan. Kimberly, he's leaving for the weekend. Ryan, that's perfect. Kimberly, I want you here. I don't want to hide anymore. Ryan, then we won't. I read that last message 3 times. She was inviting him into my home. Into the house I paid for. The bed we shared. The life I built. And that's when my plan changed. I wasn't just going to expose her. I was going to make sure she never forgot what she did to me. And neither would Ryan. I spent the next few days making sure everything was in place. I had enough evidence to destroy Kimberly in a divorce. Texts, call logs, GPS tracking, even video footage. But that wasn't enough. I didn't just want her to lose. I wanted her to suffer. She and Ryan thought they were sneaky, but they were predictable. She was reckless now, too comfortable. She had no idea I was always 5 steps ahead. On Wednesday, I casually mentioned to my daughters that I had a work retreat over the weekend and that they'd be staying with my sister. They didn't think much of it, excited to spend time with their cousins. Kimberly just nodded, barely looking up from her phone. That night, I made sure the house was ready. Step 1. I installed a second hidden camera, this time in the bedroom. It was small, tucked away near a shelf, nearly impossible to spot. I had one in the living room already, but I wanted everything captured. Step 2. I told my boss I needed to take Friday off for family reasons. No work retreat. I wasn't going anywhere. Step 3. I waited. Friday came. I kissed my daughters goodbye as my sister picked them up. Kimberly didn't even pretend to be sad about me leaving. Have fun, she said, pecking my cheek. She smelled different. Sweeter. Like perfume she didn't wear for me. I pretended not to notice. You too. Then I got in my car and drove off. I didn't go far, just parked a few streets away, close enough to monitor everything from my phone. The hidden cameras were already connected. I had a live feed of my own house in my hands. I waited. And just as I expected, an hour later, Ryan showed up. I watched on my phone as he walked inside like he owned the place. He pulled Kimberly in for a long kiss, hands all over her like he belonged there. Like I didn't exist. They laughed. Opened a bottle of wine. Got comfortable on my couch, drinking my whiskey in my house. I gripped the steering wheel, heartbeat pounding in my ears. I could have stormed in right then and there, but no. That wasn't the plan. I waited. Another hour passed. They moved to the bedroom. The camera caught everything. The way she looked at him, the way they laughed together, the way she ran her hands over him like she used to do to me. And that was all I needed. I turned off the feed, stepped out of my car, and walked back to my house. It was time to end this. I walked up to my front door, heart pounding but my mind clear. I wasn't here to scream or throw punches. That would be too easy for them. No, I wanted something deeper. I wanted them to feel the weight of what they'd done. I pulled out my keys, unlocked the door slowly, and stepped inside. Laughter drifted from the bedroom. Muffled voices. Clinking glasses. They were relaxed. Comfortable. Unbothered. That changed real quick. I walked straight down the hall and pushed the bedroom door open. Kimberly was in my bed, barely covered, lying against Ryan's chest. They both froze. Ryan's arm was draped over her, his hand still on her waist. The wine bottle sat on my nightstand. My sheets, our marital bed, were messy. It was disgusting. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then Kimberly sat up fast, yanking the sheets up like that would somehow fix this. Dan, she stammered, eyes wide. You're supposed to be. Ryan scrambled, nearly falling off the bed, grabbing his jeans off the floor like the coward he was. I smiled. Come. In control. Oh, don't stop on my account, I said, leaning against the door frame. I mean, you already made yourself comfortable in my bed. What's a little audience now? Kimberly's face went pale. Dan, I can explain. Explain what? I cut her off, my voice sharp. That you're screwing a kid half my age? That you brought him into my house while our daughters are away? That you've been lying to me for months? Ryan finally found his voice. Look, man, I turned on him so fast he flinched. Don't even try it. He stood there, shirtless, still holding his jeans, eyes darting between me and the window like he was debating jumping out. Good. You should be scared. Kimberly reached for my arm. Dan, please, let's talk. I pulled back. No. You don't get to talk. You chose this. You chose him. And now you get to live with it. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and hit play. Her own voice filled the room. I can't stop thinking about you. Last night was amazing. I wish I could be with you all the time. Ryan's voice followed, cocky and sure. Soon, babe. He won't suspect a thing. Kimberly's hand flew to her mouth. Ryan turned ghost white. I let the audio play until the very last second, then locked my phone and slid it back into my pocket. I know everything, I said quietly. I have your texts. I have your locations. I have video of you too. You thought I was an idiot? That I wouldn't notice? Kimberly shook her head furiously. Dan, it's not what it... Shut up. I snapped. She flinched. For the first time, she looked genuinely afraid. I took a deep breath, collected myself, smiled again. You know what? Forget it. You don't have to explain. Because I already made up my mind. I turned to Ryan. You, I said, have exactly 30 seconds to get out of my house before I ruin your life. Ryan gulped. Dan, come on, man. I took a step closer. You think this is a game? I hissed. You think you can sleep with my wife and walk away? I pulled my phone out again and tapped the screen. This? I held up a picture of his father, Matt, my best friend. He doesn't know yet, but he will. He's going to know that his son betrayed me. That you threw away years of family friendship for a cheap affair. Ryan's hands were shaking. You wouldn't? I grinned. Try me? Kimberly started crying. Dan, please don't. Oh, now you care? I laughed bitterly. Where was this concern when you were sneaking around? When you were lying to my face? Ryan grabbed his shirt, fumbling to pull it on. He didn't even bother with his shoes. He bolted out of the room like a scared little boy. A second later, I heard the front door slam. And then, it was just me and Kimberly. She was sobbing now. Dan, please. I love you. I stared at her, shaking my head. No, you don't. She broke down completely. I let her cry. Then, in the calmest voice I could manage, I said, pack a bag. You're leaving tonight? Her head snapped up. It. You heard me. I already called a lawyer. I already filed. This is over. She stared at me like I'd just killed her. Dan, please, let's fix this. Let's go to counseling. Let's. I laughed. Counseling? You think therapy is gonna fix you screwing my best friend's son? You think some therapist is gonna undo this? I gestured to the bed, to the empty space where Ryan had been. She opened her mouth, closed it. She knew there was nothing she could say. I turned and walked toward the door. But before I left, I looked back one last time. I hope he was worth it, I said. Then I walked out. And I didn't look back. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My heart was still racing, but not from anger anymore. It was done. I had confronted them. I had made Kimberly see what she had done. I had watched Ryan run out of my house like the coward he was. And now, I was sitting here in the quiet, trying to figure out what came next. I checked my phone. A dozen missed calls from Kimberly. A few texts, all desperate. Kimberly, Dan, please come back inside. Let's talk. Kimberly, I messed up. I know I did. But I love you. Please don't do this. Kimberly, at least let me explain before you make any decisions. Kimberly, please. I turned off my screen. There was nothing she could say that would change what she did. Instead of answering, I made my next move. I pulled up Matt's number, Ryan's dad, my best friend, and hit call. He answered after 2 rings. Dan. What's up, man? His voice was cheerful, like he had no idea his son was a piece of garbage. I took a deep breath. Matt, we need to talk. His tone changed instantly. What's wrong? I hesitated because once I said it, there was no taking it back. But I wasn't here to protect Ryan. That kid made his choice. It's about Ryan, I said. And Kimberly. Silence. Then, cautiously, what about them? I clenched my jaw. Matt, they're having an affair. More silence. Then a sharp exhale. What? They've been sleeping together, I said, voice steady. For months. I just caught them in my house. In my bed. For a second I thought the call had dropped. But then I heard him breathe in, slow and shaky. You're serious? Dead serious. A long, deadly pause. Then, where is he? He ran, I said. Probably straight home. I'll take care of it, Matt said. His voice was dangerous. I'll call you later. The line went dead. I exhaled, staring at my phone. One problem handled. Now I had to figure out what to do about my marriage. No, my divorce. When I got back to the house, Kimberly was still sitting on the bed, wrapped in the sheets, staring blankly at the wall. She looked up when I entered, eyes red and puffy. You told Matt, she whispered. Of course I did. I walked past her, grabbed an empty suitcase from the closet and tossed it on the bed. Start packing. She flinched. Dan, please? No, I said sharply. You don't get to beg. You don't get to cry. You made your choice. Now you deal with it. Tears spilled down her face. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Not my problem. She wiped her face. I'll stay with my sister. Great. I pulled my phone out. I'll call her now. No, she said quickly. Let me do it. I smirked. So she doesn't know yet? She looked away. That's what I thought. You haven't told anyone, have you? I pressed. Not your family. Not your friends? She swallowed. I was going to. I laughed bitterly. Yeah. When? Before or after you left me for him? She didn't answer. I checked my watch. You have an hour to get your things. I want you out before the girls come home. Her face crumbled at the mention of our daughters. Dan, please don't do this to them. Me? I snapped. I didn't do this to them. You did. That shut her up. I walked out, leaving her to pack. An hour later, she was gone. I stood in the doorway watching her sister's car pull away, and for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. The house was empty. Silent. And for the first time in 17 years, I was alone. But I wasn't sad. I was just getting started. The moment Kimberly left, I sat down at the kitchen table, took a deep breath, and stared at my phone. No text from Matt yet. That meant he was handling things. Good. I still had work to do. I poured myself a drink, not to drown the pain but to celebrate the start of something new. Because this wasn't just about ending my marriage. This was about making sure Kimberly and Ryan felt the consequences of their betrayal. And I had plans. First I called my lawyer. Dan, I was just about to call you back, he said. I got the paperwork ready. We can file Monday morning. Good, I said. But I don't just want a divorce. I want to make sure she walks away with nothing. He exhaled. Well, given the evidence you provided, text messages, GPS data, video recordings, you have an ironclad case. We'll push for infidelity as the primary cause, which means she won't get alimony. I smirked. Perfect. She'll fight it, he warned. Let her try. Kimberly had no idea what was coming. Next, I sent out a message to our closest friends. A simple group text. Me, hey everyone, I just wanted to let you all know that Kimberly and I are getting divorced. I caught her cheating on me with Ryan. Silence for a few seconds. Then messages flooded in. Mark, you're joking, right? Lisa, what the hell? Jake, Ryan? As in Matt's son Ryan? Me, yep. Caught them in my bed. Sarah, oh my God. Kimberly, tell me this isn't true. Kimberly has left the chat. I laughed. Classic move. A few seconds later, I got a private text from Lisa. Lisa, Dan, I hate to tell you this, but I had suspicions. Kimberly's been acting weird for months. I should have said something. Me, doesn't matter now. She made her choice. Then came the cherry on top. Matt called. I answered immediately. How'd it go? She's lucky she's a woman, he growled. Because if it were him calling, I'd be in jail right now. I leaned back. What did you say? I didn't have to say much, Matt spat. Ryan walked in and I could see the guilt all over him. I asked him point blank if it was true, and the idiot had the nerve to hesitate. So I knew. I told him to get out of my house. Damn. He really kicked his own son out. Where is he now? I asked. No idea, Matt said. And I don't care. He's dead to me. That hit me harder than I expected. I thought Matt might be angry, but cutting his own son off? That was cold. And yet, I couldn't find it in me to feel bad for Ryan. He did this to himself. The real fun started the next morning. Kimberly started reaching out again, sending texts, voicemails, even trying to call from unknown numbers. I ignored all of it. Then my sister called. Dan, she said, her voice tight. Kimberly just showed up at my house. I nearly dropped my coffee. Are you serious? She's crying, my sister said. She wants to see the girls? Hell no, I snapped. Not happening. Yeah, that's what I told her, my sister said. But Dan, she looks rough. Like she hasn't slept, hasn't eaten. I think she's breaking down. I ran a hand down my face. She should have thought about that before she cheated. I know, my sister said. I just thought you should know. I hung up without another word. Kimberly was unraveling. And I wasn't going to stop it. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. Kimberly had gone radio silent. No more texts, no more calls, nothing. I knew better than to think she had given up. She was just waiting. Sure enough, my sister called again. She's back, she said, voice low. I sighed. You serious? Yeah. She's outside my house, just sitting in her car. She hasn't knocked or anything. Just sitting there. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Are the girls with you? They're inside. They haven't seen her yet. I exhaled. All right. I'm coming over. When I pulled up, Kimberly was still in her car, gripping the steering wheel like she was holding onto it for dear life. Her hair was a mess. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. I walked up and knocked on her window. She jumped, then quickly rolled it down. Dan. What are you doing here, Kimberly? My voice was flat. No emotion. She swallowed hard. I just want to see the girls. I stared at her. You didn't think about them when you were screwing Ryan? She flinched like I had slapped her. Please, Dan. Nope, I folded my arms. Not happening. Tears filled her eyes. You're really going to keep them from me? No, you kept yourself from them, I said coldly. When you decided our marriage, our home, our family wasn't enough. Her hands clenched around the wheel. It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking. I shook my head. No. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. Sleeping with Ryan for months wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. And you made it. Over and over again. She burst into tears, covering her face with her hands. I hate myself, Dan. I hate myself so much. I don't know why I did it. I didn't say anything. I just let her sit in her misery. Finally, she wiped her face and looked at me. Is there any way you'll ever forgive me? I stared at her for a long time. Then I leaned in close and said, no. Her face crumpled. I straightened up. Now leave. Don't show up unannounced again. If you want to see the girls, we'll work something out through lawyers. But right now, you don't deserve them. She nodded, barely able to hold herself together, and started the car. I stepped back, arms crossed as she drove away. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. Kimberly was breaking. And I wasn't going to be the one to fix her. A week passed. A quiet, almost eerie week. No unexpected calls. No desperate texts. No Kimberly showing up out of nowhere, begging for another chance. I knew why. People knew now. See, the thing about affairs? They don't just stay between the people involved. The moment I sent that group text exposing Kimberly and Ryan, the news spread like wildfire. And since Ryan was Matt's son, the scandal got even worse. Nobody wanted to be on their side. I saw it happening in real time. Kimberly's social media, which she used to flood with pictures of her happy family, had gone silent. No more brunch selfies. No more workout pics. Just gone. Then one afternoon, Lisa, one of our old mutual friends, called me. You're not gonna believe this, she said, barely able to contain herself. What? I just ran into Kimberly at the grocery store. I leaned back in my chair. And? She looks rough, Lisa said. Like really rough. She was trying to talk to Sarah, but Sarah just walked right past her. Didn't even acknowledge her. I smirked. Good. She looked so lost, Lisa continued. Like she doesn't know how to handle being alone. She should have thought about that before she betrayed everyone. Lisa hesitated. I think she's realizing that now. It wasn't just Kimberly who was facing the backlash. Ryan was too. Matt, his own father, had cut him off. And without his dad's support, Ryan had nowhere to go. He tried staying with some friends, but nobody wanted to take him in. Turns out, people don't exactly welcome you with open arms when you sleep with your dad's best friend's wife. I got confirmation of this when I bumped into Jake, another mutual friend, at the gym. Dude, he said, shaking his head. Ryan's a mess. He's sleeping on some guy's couch right now. He lost his internship too. I raised an eyebrow. Why? Jake grinned. Matt made some calls. I chuckled. Of course he did. Matt was respected in his industry. And if he wanted to quietly blacklist Ryan from opportunities, it wasn't hard. I bet Ryan thought he'd get away with this, that there wouldn't be real consequences. But now, he had nothing. One night a text popped up on my phone. A number I didn't recognize. A no number. Dan, please. Just talk to me. I knew who it was. I typed back one word, no. Then I blocked the number. Ryan didn't deserve a response. He deserved to drown in the mess he made. I thought things would slow down after that. That Kimberly and Ryan would slink away, too ashamed to show their faces. That maybe, just maybe, I could move on without more drama. But I should have known better. Because some people, they don't know when to quit. It happened on a Wednesday evening. I had just finished dinner, sitting on the couch, flipping through channels when I heard banging on my front door. Not a knock. Banging. I sighed, already knowing who it was. When I opened the door, there she stood. Kimberly. Her hair was unbrushed. Dark circles under her eyes. She looked smaller somehow, like life had drained out of her. Dan, she breathed, almost frantic. Please. Just listen to me. I didn't move. I told you not to come here. I know. She wiped at her face. But I don't have anywhere else to go. I crossed my arms. Not my problem. Her lips trembled. Matt won't let Ryan stay with him. My parents won't even answer my calls. My friends, she let out a hollow laugh. They all cut me off. Again. Not my problem. But then she said something that actually made me pause. I lost my job. That got my attention. Kimberly worked in real estate. And in a small town like ours, reputation mattered. I leaned against the doorframe. Let me guess, I said. People didn't want to buy houses from a cheater? Her face crumpled. The company let me go. They said it wasn't about my personal life, but she looked down. I know it was. I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. She did this to herself. So what? I asked. You think I'll take you back out of pity? She shook her head. No. I know that's not possible. But Dan, I have nothing. I don't know what to do. I exhaled slowly. I wanted to slam the door in her face. I really did. But then I thought of our daughters. As much as I hated Kimberly for what she did, she was still their mother. And if she completely self-destructed, that would affect them too. So I did something I didn't expect. I gave her one last chance to be a decent person. You want to start fixing things? I said. She nodded desperately. Then stop trying to fix us. Focus on fixing your relationship with the girls. And that means doing things my way. Her throat bobbed. Oh, okay. I narrowed my eyes. That means we go through lawyers for custody. You don't show up unannounced. You don't try to manipulate them into hating me. You don't make this harder than it already is. Tears streamed down her face. I won't. I swear. I didn't trust her. But I had control now. And I wasn't letting go of it. Good, I said. Now leave. She hesitated, like she wanted to say more. Then, slowly, she turned and walked away. I watched her go, arms crossed. And for the first time I saw it. She wasn't the same person anymore. This wasn't just regret. This wasn't just guilt. This was complete and utter defeat. And honestly, it was exactly what she deserved. Just when I thought the drama was finally dying down, Ryan decided to prove he was even dumber than I thought. It happened late Friday night. I was in the garage fixing up an old shelf when my phone buzzed. A known number. I already knew who it was. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. And then, bang bang bang. Someone was pounding on my front door. I exhaled, wiped my hands on my jeans and walked through the house. The second I opened the door, I saw him. Ryan. He looked like a wreck. His hair was a mess, his shirt wrinkled like he hadn't changed in days. His eyes were bloodshot like he'd been drinking, or crying. Probably both. I stared at him. What the hell do you want? He swallowed hard. I need to talk to you. I crossed my arms. You got 30 seconds. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. Dan, man, I screwed up, okay? I know that. I lost everything. My dad kicked me out. My mom won't even answer my calls. I can't go anywhere without people looking at me like I'm trash. Sounds about right, I said flatly. His jaw tightened. Look, I never wanted to hurt you. I laughed. A real bitter laugh. You never wanted to hurt me? I shook my head. You slept with my wife for months in my house and thought I wouldn't find out. So tell me, Ryan, what exactly did you think would happen? He clenched his fists. I thought she was going to leave you. I narrowed my eyes. Oh, you thought you were going to play house with my wife? Be a stepdaddy to my daughters? He looked away. I took a step closer. Tell me something, Ryan, did you actually love her? Or was it just a game to see if you could take what was mine? His face twisted, but he didn't answer. That's what I thought. You were just a fantasy to her, kid, I said, voice calm but sharp. An escape. A mistake she regrets. And now she has nothing. Because of you. His breath hitched. His hands were shaking. I didn't mean for it to. I cut him off. You know what? I actually don't care what you meant. I stepped back and pointed down the driveway. Now get the hell off my property. He didn't move. So I leaned in just a little. Lowered my voice. If you ever come near me, my house, or my kids again, I said, slow and deadly, I will make sure your life is even worse than it already is. He swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. And then, finally, he broke. His shoulders sagged. His hands dropped to his sides. He turned around, walked to his car, and drove off without another word. I stood there, watching his taillights disappear. And for the first time since this entire nightmare started, I knew this was over. The morning after Ryan's pathetic little visit, I woke up to something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. No more hiding. No more wondering. No more second-guessing myself. For the first time in months, I felt free. I poured myself a cup of coffee and stepped out onto the porch. The air was crisp, the sun just starting to rise. My phone sat on the table next to me, silent. No desperate texts. No missed calls. No drama. Kimberly had finally stopped trying. Ryan had finally given up. And Matt? He was sticking to his word. Ryan was dead to him. That kid had burned every bridge and now he was alone. I won. That afternoon, my daughters came home. They were laughing as they walked through the door, telling me all about their weekend with their cousins. I listened, nodding along, soaking in every second. Because this was what mattered. Not Kimberly. Not Ryan. Not the wreckage they left behind. Just me and my girls. My oldest, Emily, looked at me suddenly. Dad? Yeah? She hesitated. Mom texted me today. I set down my drink. What did she say? She just said she missed us. Emily looked away. I didn't answer. I sighed. You can talk to her if you want to, sweetheart. I won't stop you. I know. She shifted. But, I don't know. I just don't feel like talking to her right now. I nodded. That's okay. You don't have to rush. Take your time. She smiled a little. Thanks, Dad. For the rest of the night, we watched movies, ordered pizza, and laughed like nothing had changed. And for the first time, I truly believed it. Before bed, I checked my email. My lawyer had sent over the finalized divorce papers. All that was left was my signature. I stared at the document for a long time. This was it. The final step. I grabbed a pen and signed my name. The moment my signature hit the paper, a weight lifted from my chest. Kimberly was no longer my wife. She was just another person from my past. And I was finally free. A few days after signing the divorce papers, I got a text from Kimberly. Kimberly, I know you don't owe me anything, but could we talk one last time? In person? I stared at the message for a while. A month ago I would have ignored it. Or maybe I would have answered just to hear her beg. But now, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just done. So I sent back a simple response. Fine. Tomorrow. 3 p.m. Coffee shop on Main. She was already sitting at a table when I walked in. She looked different. Not in a good way. Her hair was dull, her face thinner. She had that hollow look of someone who hadn't been sleeping well. Someone carrying regret. She gave me a weak smile. Hey. I nodded and sat down. All right. You wanted to talk. So talk. She swallowed. First, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Not just for cheating but for everything. Lying. Breaking our family. Hurting you. I stayed silent. She took a deep breath. I don't expect forgiveness. I needed to tell you that. Because I don't think I'll ever forgive myself. I leaned back. Good. She flinched. I'm not saying that to be cruel, I said, voice steady. But you should feel bad. You threw away 17 years. A home. A life. And for what? A fling with a kid? Tears welled in her eyes. I don't know, she whispered. I wish I could go back and undo it all. But you can't, I said simply. She nodded, wiping at her eyes. I know. A long silence stretched between us. Then finally she said, do you think we could ever Be friends? I stared at her. Then I laughed. Not bitter. Not angry. Just amused. Kimberly, let me ask you something, I said. If I had been the one to cheat, if I had done to you what you did to me, would you want to be my friend? She opened her mouth. Closed it. Exactly. I stood up. Take care, Kimberly. And with that, I walked out of her life forever. She watched me go, her face crumpling. But I didn't look back. Because I wasn't the one who lost everything. She was. It's been 6 months since I walked out of that coffee shop. 6 months since I looked Kimberly in the eyes for the last time. And let me tell you, I don't regret a damn thing. Life has been good. Not just okay, but actually good. The divorce was finalized. The custody agreement was simple. Kimberly gets the girls every other weekend, but they spend most of their time with me. Not because of a court ruling, but because they want to. Kimberly? She's still struggling. She never got her job back. She bounced between a couple of part-time gigs, but in a small town where everyone knows what she did, opportunities are limited. She lives in a tiny apartment now, a far cry from the home we once shared. Ryan? I don't even know where he is. Matt disowned him for good. Last I heard, he was crashing at some cousin's place in another state trying to start over. But I doubt he ever will. Some mistakes? You don't recover from. And me? I'm better than ever. I started going to the gym again, not because of anger, but because I finally had the energy for it. I started picking up old hobbies, golf, hiking, even some woodworking. I even went on a few dates. Nothing serious yet, but the idea of love doesn't make me sick anymore. Most importantly, I'm happy. Not because I got revenge. Not because I made Kimberly and Ryan's lives miserable. But because I finally put myself first. Because I walked away from the wreckage they caused and built something better. So if you're reading this and you're going through the same thing, if you've been betrayed, lied to, humiliated, let it fuel you. Not for revenge. Not to hurt them back. But to make your life so damn good that they look at you and realize they lost everything. And you? You came out on top.